We thank the Lord for the opportunity to come before you today. And today we will speak about defeating the giants in our lives. And we know that many people are facing giants right now. And for some, there'll be even more giants in the future. Let's go to the scriptures. And let's see what the Lord can do when it comes to giants. Let's go to 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter. Let's start at the 36th verse. We're going to go through 36 through the 40th verse. And what has happened, the giant Goliath has challenged the armies of Israel for one man to come out and fight against him. And whoever wins, the other will become, that other army, either the Philistines or either the Israelites, will become the servant of the group of the winner between Goliath and any person that Israel sends out to fight against him. And we know the story about David and Goliath. And we see, let us look at what happened. We're going to start off with David speaking to Saul. And he's telling Saul about what the Lord had done. Look at this 36th verse. He says, "Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God." And that's the way it is in our life. David already defeated the lion and the bear with the help of the Lord. And he knew that it didn't make any difference how big the giant was or whatever he had to face. The same God that defeated the lion and the bear could also defeat this Philistine. And look what he said, 37th verse. David said, "Moreover, the Lord," look what he's saying, "the Lord that delivered me out of the power of the lion and out of the power of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said unto David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Look what David said now. He wasn't dependent on his own strength. He said, "The Lord that delivered me out of the hand of the lion and the bear will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine." So that's what we have to look to defeat giants. We got to look to the Lord. The Lord can defeat giants, but we can't. When we go up against giants, we will be defeated. But we're going to need God's power to fight the giants that we got to face today and the giants that we have to face in the future. We're going to need the Lord. Let's go on. And look what happened. God's ways are not our ways. And we can't fight God's battles in our strength and with our weapons. Look what Saul did, 38. "And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head, and he armed him with a coat of mail." That's the same thing the enemy had on. Look, let's go further. "And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go." He tested the armor, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, "I cannot go with thee, for I have not proved them." And David put them off him. So a lot of times we want to try to fight the enemy in the ways of the world. But the enemy won't be defeated that way. Our weapons are not carnal, not as the world's way. We don't fight the enemy the way the world fights the enemy. We look to Jesus. We look to the Lord. We let the Lord direct us. See, Saul wanted David to fight in the way of the world, in the enemy in his own way, but that wasn't going to work. We have to go the Lord's way. David had to go the way of the Lord. Let's go back and let's see what Goliath had on. Let's go to the same 17th chapter. Let's go through verses 4 through 6. He said, "And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Basically, Goliath was about 9 feet 9 inches tall. And he had a helmet of brass, just like Saul wanted to give David, a helmet of brass upon his head. And he was armed with a coat of mail, the same kind of armor that Saul wanted to give David. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. It was just much bigger, but he wanted to fight the same way, with the same armor, but that wasn't the way of the Lord. The world got a way of fighting. It fights through politics. It fights through an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It fights the way of the world. You overcome, you return evil for evil, holding grudges, trying to hurt people, trying to get back with people, trying to get back at them, trying to get even. Those are the ways of the world. But that's not the way of God. That's not his way. You can't defeat the enemy at his own game. You can't do that. We have to depend on the Lord, and we have to have the Lord to direct us how to fight the battle. And he's going to fight it for us. And let's go further. He said that, number 6, he said he had greaves of brass. That means that these were protections for his legs. He had greaves of brass upon his legs and a target of brass between his shoulders. All that was covering his chest and his shoulders, so from any kind of weapon. And look what number 7. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear head weighed 600 shekels of iron. It says that's 15 pounds. That's just the head of its beam, of his spear. And the one bearing the shield went before him. And he had so much armor on, and it was so heavy until somebody had to carry his shield before him. So he was here's a giant that's unpenetrable. There was no way to destroy him. And sometimes there are giants in our life, and there's no way to defeat them. We got all kind of giants. We have giants in our marriages, giants in our the raising of our children. We have giants on the job. We have giants financially. We got all kind of giants that we have to face. And there's no way to penetrate them. There's no way to defeat them. They're much larger than us. But the Lord. I tell you, we just trust the Lord in these days. That's what's happening to the world today. Men are trying to fight and destroy giants with the same weapons that the giants have. And you won't defeat them that way. The things that used to work, they won't work anymore. We're going to need Jesus